Welcome dear learners, this is Srishti Tamrakar from Department of Commerce and Management. Today we are moving beyond the basic concept of price as merely a number on a tag. Instead, we will explore price as a complex strategic level that determines the viability, competitiveness and ultimate profitability of a firm. In the business world, pricing is rarely a guessing game. It is a calculated decision based on rigorous analysis of internal cost, external competition, and consumer psychology. As a student, it is essential that you understand not just how to calculate a price, but why specific strategies are chosen under different market conditions. We will discuss the mechanics of breaking even, the economic rationale behind the marginal cost pricing, and the market forces that drives competition and demand-based strategies. So, by the end of this session, you should view pricing not just as an accounting function but as a core component of business strategy. Let us establish a roadmap for this session. Our learning objectives are distinct and focused. First, we will analyze break-even pricing. We need to understand how identify the precise point where an organization transitions from loss to profit. Second, we will evaluate marginal cost pricing. This is often a counterintuitive strategy where fixed costs are ignored in favor of short-term gains, and we will assess when this risky approach is actually the smartest move. Third, we will distinguish between various competition-oriented pricing strategies, looking at how market leaders and new entrants use price to signal value or capture market share. Finally, we will examine demand-oriented pricing, shifting our focus from accountants' laser to the customer's perception of value. Let us begin with the foundation of all pricing, the cost structure. We start with break-even pricing. At its core, this is a cost-based strategy. But what does that really mean? It means the price is determined by looking inward at what it costs to exist, rather than looking outward at what the customer want to pay. Break-even pricing sets the price at a level where total revenue exactly equals total cost. The result, zero profit, zero loss. Now, you might ask yourself, why would a company aim for zero profit? Is the goal of business not to make money? This is a valid question. The answer lies in utility of its metric. While break-even pricing is rarely the final selling price, it serves as the absolute floor, the critical reference point. It tells management this is the minimum price we must charge to survive. Any price set above this point contributes to your profit. Any price below it eats into the company's capital. It acts as a safety net and a benchmark for decision making. To understand break even, we must first deconstruct the anatomy of cost. The first category is fixed cost. These are the costs that remain constant regardless of your production volume. Whether you produce 1 unit or 1 million units, these bills must be paid. Think of them as the cost of being open for business. Consider a manufacturing plant, the rent or mortgage on the factory building, the salaries of your permanent administrative staff, insurance premiums, and annual software licenses. These do not fluctuate with a slow week or a busy month. There is an important factor here regarding economies of scale. While the total fixed costs remain the same, the fixed cost per unit drop as you produce more. If your rent is $1,000 and you make 1 unit, that unit carries the full burden of the rent. If you make 1000 units, each unit only carries a burden of $1. This concept is vital for high volume producers. The second component is variable cost. Unlike fixed cost, these have a direct linear relationship with our output. If you produce nothing, your variable costs are zero. As production ramps up, these costs rises in lockstep. Common example includes raw materials, packaging, shipping fees and sales commissions. Let us distinguish this clearly. Fixed costs are about capacity. Variable costs are about activity. If you are running a bakery, the oven is a fixed cost. The flour and sugar are variable cost. Understanding this distinction is the prerequisite for calculating the total cost, which is simply the sum of your fixed commitments plus the variable cost incurred for the specific number of units produced. Now, let us turn to the mathematics that guide this strategy. To find the total cost, we add our fixed cost to the product of our variable cost per unit and the number of units produced. But the most powerful formula here is for the break-even point. How do we calculate how many units we need to sell to stop losing money? We take a total fixed cost and divide them by the contribution margin per unit. So, let us see what exactly is contribution margin. It is the selling price minus the variable cost. Conceptually, it represents the portion of sales revenue that is not consumed by variable cost and is therefore available or contributes to covering fixed cost. Once fixed costs are covered, that contribution margin becomes pure profit. Alternatively, if we want to find the break-even price for a specific expected sales volume, we divide the total fixed cost by the expected volume and add the variable cost per unit. This gives us the minimum price tag required to keep the lights on. Let us apply this to a manufacturing scenario to ensure the concept is concrete. Imagine a company with annual fixed cost of rupees 10 lakh. It costs them 150 rupees in variable cost to make a single widget. They expect to sell 20,000 units. First, let us calculate the price for zero profit, which is called break-even price. We divide the 10 lakh fixed cost by the 20,000 units, which gives us 50 rupees per unit in fixed cost allocation. We add the 150 rupees variable cost, resulting in a break-even price of 200 rupees. At 200 rupees, they survive but they do not thrive. Now, suppose the shareholders demand a profit of 5 lakh rupees. We treat this desired profit almost like an additional fixed cost. We add the 5 lakh profit to the 10 lakh fixed cost totaling 15 lakh. Dividing this by 20,000 units gives us a fixed contribution of 75 rupees. Adding the variable cost of 150 rupees, our new target price becomes 225 rupees. This simple calculation allows managers to work backward from a profit target to set a correct price. This logic applies equally to service businesses, though the units changes. Consider a consulting firm. Their unit is a completed project. If their monthly fixed costs like office space and salaries are 2 lakh rupees and the variable cost to execute one project, perhaps travel and freelance support, is 25,000 rupees and they can only handle 10 projects a month, the maths remain the same. We divide the 2 lakh fixed cost by 10 projects, resulting in 20,000 per project, and then add the variable cost of 25,000 and the break even fee is 45,000 rupees per project. Here is the strategic implication. If they charge 45,000, they break even. If they charge 50,000, they make a 5,000 profit per project. But if market pressure forces them to charge 40,000, they lose 5,000 on every single engagement. This simple threshold determines the firm's financial health. Let us briefly recap this section. We have established that break-even pricing is the survival threshold where total revenue meets total cost. We identified that cost comes in two flavors: fixed, which are the time related, and variables, which are the volume related. Finally, we learned that the contribution margin is the engine of profitability. It is the money left over after making the product that goes beyond paying off the company's overhead. With this foundation laid, let us now move to a more aggressive short-term strategy: marginal cost pricing. Marginal cost pricing is a strategy that often confuses those new to economics because it seems to violate the safety rules we just discussed. In this strategy, the price is set based only on the variable cost, while fixed costs are ignored. The price is determined by the cost of product using just one additional unit, the marginal unit. Why would a manager ignore fixed costs like rent and salaries? The philosophy here acts on a short-term timeline. It argues that fixed costs are sunk costs in the immediate future. You have to pay the rent whether you take the next order or not. Therefore, if a new order comes in that covers the variable cost and contributes even $1 towards the fixed cost, it is better to accept it than to decline it. The economic basis for this approach is the contribution margin. Remember, the formula for profit is total contribution minus total fixed cost. If you have ideal capacity, say a factory that is only running at 60% utilization, your fixed costs are already a burden. If a customer offer a price that is lower than your total cost but higher than your variable cost, accept that order increases your total contribution. It operates on the logic that earning something towards your fixed overhead is better than earning nothing. A classical example is the airline industry. Once a plane is scheduled to take off, the fuel, pilot salaries, and landing fees are fixed. If a seat is empty, then minutes before departure, the marginal cost of putting a passenger in the seat is near zero. Perhaps just a bag of peanut and a soda. Therefore, selling the ticket for a very low price is financially rational as it generates revenue with almost zero incremental cost. Where do we see this applied in the real world? First, in special orders. If a factory has unused machines, accepting a one-time order at a lower price keeps the workforce active and contributes to overheads. Second, in market penetration, companies might enter a fierce market price at a marginal cost to steal market share, intending to raise price later. Third, with perishable goods, consider fresh fruit or fashion items. As the expiration date approaches, the inventory loses value. Selling at marginal cost avoid a total loss. And finally, in price discrimination, this is why students or seniors often pay less. The company charges the full price to those who can pay and a marginal price to those who can't, maximizing total revenue from all segments. Let's see advantages and disadvantages of this method. On the positive side, it offers flexibility. It allows companies to be aggressive in competitive markets while maintaining higher prices as well. It also ensures better capacity utilization, encouraging production up to the limit. It provides a clear decision framework. If price is greater than marginal cost and you have the space, you take the deal. However, the risks are significant. The biggest danger is fixed cost recovery. If you sell everything at marginal cost, you will never pay your rent and you will go bankrupt. There is no guarantee that volume will make up for the low price. Furthermore, there is a legal risk. Pricing persistently low to drive competitors out of business can be classified as predatory pricing, which is illegal in many cases. Finally, there is the issue of customer expectation. If you sell a premium product at a marginal price today, customers may refuse to pay the full price tomorrow. You risk devaluing your brand. Let us look at the numbers. Imagine a company selling a product for $50. The variable cost is $20. A customer comes in and offer to buy 1000 units but they only want to pay $25. This is half the normal price. Should the manager accept? If we look at full cost, it might look like a loss. But look at the marginal maths. The offer is $25. The variable cost is $20. that leaves a contribution of $5 per unit. Multiplied by 1000 units, this special order contributes $5,000 towards the fixed cost. If the company has the spare capacity, the decision is to accept that $5,000 is money they would not have had otherwise. However, this only works if this special order does not replace the full price sales. Let's recap this section. Marginal cost pricing is a tactical short-term tool. It ignores fixed costs to maximize contribution during period of idle capacity or high competition. It is mathematically sound for one-off decision but dangerous as long-term strategy because eventually the fixed cost must be paid. Now, let us shift our perspective from internal cost to the external environment, that is competition oriented pricing. Competition oriented pricing abandons the cost sheet and looks at the market. The firms ask, what is everyone else charging? The first form of this is parity pricing, also known as ongoing rate pricing. Here, the firm set its price exactly at the level of its competitors. Why would you copy your neighbor? This is common in markets with homogeneous products like steel or wheat, or in oligopolies where a price war would hurt everyone. It represents a safety in number approach. If a new entrant comes into a market with intense competition, parity pricing avoids rocking the boat. It signals that the product is of comparable standard to what it is already available. Alternatively, a firm can choose to deviate from the norms. First, we have discount pricing or pricing below the competitive level. This is the weapon of the challenger. New entrants often use this to disrupt the market, grab attention, and generate a customer base quickly. It is aggressive and designed to compete with established players. However, it is usually a short term technique. Sustaining lower prices forever is difficult. On the other end of the spectrum is premium pricing or pricing above the competitive level. This is the privilege of market leader. Think of brands like Apple or Mercedes. They charge more not necessarily because the product costs more to make, but because they have high customer loyalty and superior brand equity. A high price here acts as a signal of quality. The customer pay more because they believe they are getting the best. We now arrived at a final category, demand oriented pricing. This is the most market sensitive approach. Here, price is not fixed by cost or competitors but by the customer's willingness to pay. The core principle is elasticity. When demand is high, the price rises to capture the surplus. When demand is low, the price drops to stimulate interest. It is a fluid dynamic relationship between the seller and the buyer's desire. Let's look at specific strategies within this framework. First, purchasing power pricing. This involves setting prices based on the target demographics' specific ability to pay. Retailers often use this, tailoring goods to the affordability level of a specific neighborhood or region. Second, and very critical for new innovative product, is skimming pricing. Imagine launching a revolutionary new smartphone. At launch, you set the price very high. Why? To skim the cream of the market. You target the early adopters who are price insensitive and must have the latest technology. This helps recover research and development cost quickly. Once demand from this group is satisfied, you slowly lower the price to reach the next layer of customers. This works best when the product is distinct and competition is low. In contrast to skimming, we have penetration pricing. This is used when you want to dominate a market instantly. You launch the product at very low price. The goal is not immediate profit but maximum market coverage and high sales volume. This effectively blocks competitors from entering because they cannot match your lower price. Finally, we have perceived value pricing. This is where marketing meets psychology. The price is set based on what the customer think the product is worth, irrespective of production cost. Why does a pair of branded jeans cost 5 times more than unbranded ones, even if the fabric is identical? It is the perceived value, the status, the image and the trust associated with the brand. Companies like Audi or Starbucks excel at building this perception to justify higher margins. Let's conclude our discussion. We begin with cost based pricing, specifically break even analysis, which provides the floor for our pricing decision, ensuring we cover our fixed and variable obligations. We then explored marginal cost pricing, a tactical tool for short term capacity utilization that carries long term risk. We moved to the external market with competition oriented pricing, seeing how firms either follow the herd with parity pricing or break away with discount or premium strategy. Finally, we examine demand oriented pricing, understanding that ultimately a product is worth only what a customer is willing to pay, whether through skimming, penetration or perceived value pricing method. As future managers, your task is to balance three forces: first, cost; second, competition; and third, customers, to find the optimal price point that ensures both sustainability and growth. Thank you for your attention to this critical aspect of business strategy. In the next video, we will understand channels of distribution and learn how products move from producers to final consumers through various intermediaries. Till then, revise today's topic and be ready for the next session.